The Backroom Podcast is brought to you by my friends at Shelby Auto Service in my hometown of Alabaster. 3 words I can think of for this group: established, reputable, and dependable. When it comes to auto service centers, none's better than Shelby Auto Service. And listen, the whole team, the entire team is ASE certified mechanics. Whether it's routine or a complicated service, they can handle it. ShelbyAutoservice.com to get more details. ShelbyAutoservice.com.
Hey everybody, welcome in to the back room. However, we're in the front room. We're in the real room. Now, I'm Jim Dunaway along with Lance Taylor, Ryan Brown. This is the next round.
Hey, real quick, did you see, Forrester, can you, on that laptop by there, can you pull up a picture of Jessica Alba naked? What? I just want to see a comparison about how she was then and how she is now.
What do you need, a side-by-side?
Yeah, I think that'd be cool if you can get it done. Have you got it done yet?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Sorry, what were you saying, Lunceford? I'm sorry, buddy. Or Jim.
Top Pac-12 coaches coming into this year. No, anyway.
Pac-12 coach, speaking of that, I haven't packed for my trip yet. Don't you hate packing? Can you tell me? Sorry, go ahead.
Anyway, thanks to Shelby Auto Service for sponsoring here on the back room. And, of course, our friends at Coca-Cola as...
Get it.
I need a swig of water. All right. So... we've kind of gone through the office. We still have a couple people to talk to. We'll get to that in the future, but here we are. It is Friday after a nice, fun week without the man who normally sits in this chair, so I will be taking the role of Jim Dunaway in this one. But, yeah, so we were kind of talking about what to talk about this week, and in the chat, I don't remember what day it was this week, but in the chat at some point, we got to talking about the whole we conversation, like, you know, I said I don't like when people use we, and so Scott has emphasized the word we every time he talks about the Falcons or White Sox or whatever. But that randomly got into a conversation about where we went to school, because when you go to school somewhere, you claim we. So I started telling a complicated story of my college and how I got to this point. So we kind of thought maybe we talk about how we got to this point, how we got to even working in media in the first place from high school until we really got into media. So, Scott, I will let you go first.
All right. So out of high school, I started out at UAB. Thought I might try accounting. That lasted for 1 quarter. We were on quarters at the time at
those are rough. Those like 3.5 hour classes.
Yeah.
I was on those quarters.
Yep.
Awful.
That didn't work out so great. So my girlfriend, now wife, she went to Auburn. So I moved down there, went to Southern Union to knock out the core curriculum, then transferred to Auburn and became an Auburn Tiger for the rest of my undergrad.
War Eagle.
Yeah, and while I was down there, so the way I got into media from down there was I was shooting basketball and gymnastics on the Jumbotron there at the old Beard Eves Coliseum.
How'd you get to using the camera? Was it just, hey, it's a job to do while I'm down here?
Yeah, something like that. And just always kind of had a fascination with cameras, technology. Yeah.
All right. So that's how Scott got into media and being on camera. Mine, the reason I brought this up was because I made a comment about we graduated from Alabama, but I did play football at Birmingham Southern. And, you know, I guess even for we, can you only claim the school you graduated from instead of all the – because you did end up graduating from UAB with a master's. So
I've got a lot of we's.
Yeah.
I sure as hell don't.
That sounds like a personal problem.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so out of high school, I went to Homewood and then graduated, had my heart set on going to Alabama. If I didn't get recruited to play football anywhere, I got, you know, the little nibble here or there from like D2, D3. But went to Alabama my freshman year, stayed there, was a computer science major, was dead set on as like a hardcore gamer that I was going to make video games one day and I was going to learn all the tools needed. I kind of had dabbled in like HTML and some, you know, different languages, but wanted to do that. It was a lot harder than I thought it was. It's not just playing video games every day. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of math too. So I kind of thought, oh, this isn't really what I want to do. decided, hey, maybe I'll switch to music because I had done some music in high school, with like choir and stuff like that. So I had the bright idea I was going to be in the show choir down in Auburn because the director at the time was a friend of my director in high school. So I was dead set I wanted to transfer to Auburn, got an apartment down there with one of my best friends from high school. And that ended up going south. That's a whole different discussion for another day, but ended up going south. So I spent a semester down there. Ended up in the summer before I moved down to Auburn, ended up being recruited by Joey Jones and Kelvis White, who is now the head coach at Bob Jones, but was my defensive line coach at Homewood and then became a coach at Birmingham Southern, recruited there. They were starting their program up. Hey, we're looking for, basically in the nicest way possible, some high school rejects who didn't get to go to college to come and you kind of help us make up this team. So I got recruited there, went there, spent a semester down in Auburn, then went to Birmingham Southern from the spring of 2007 and stayed there for 3 years, played a couple years, got injured, had to have surgery on my feet, couldn't play anymore, and decided I went from music to education to then they asked me to help film the coaches show. They just did a coaches show at Birmingham Southern. It was after the old Jefferson Pilot game on that channel back then, and I got to actually shooting video for that show. I had a camera, walk around like at the games and shoot video for that show because I couldn't play anymore, and that kind of got me into media. I used to listen to the Roundtable, and I ended up becoming an intern. Listening to the Roundtable coming into practice every day. So that's what got me to that. I switched to journalism. They didn't have a journalism program. I was going to have to split time between BSC and UAB. I ended up going from Birmingham Southern to Rutgers for a semester because you have to, because the way their program works, you have to set up your own major. And I had to take classes from other schools. And one of those classes had to be from like abroad, not like going to China or anything, but like another school kind of outside the area. And so I found a sports journalism class at Rutgers. It was taught by a guy who was the main beat writer for Rutgers for kind of the central New Jersey newspaper there. I went, I took it. It was so much fun. That's a whole experience I could get into one day. Decided I want to stay up here. They offered me a part-time job to stay up there. And basically when I graduated, I could work full-time for the newspaper. It ended up folding a couple years later, so thank goodness I didn't do that. But at the time, I wanted to be a newspaper writer. That's actually what I studied in college.
Did you enjoy your time in New Jersey?
I loved living in New Jersey. And I guess New Jersey is considered like bad compared to New York.
Oh, Bon Jovi, man, come on. Bruce Springsteen.
I lived in Jersey City for 6 months during my internship.
Yeah, I mean,
it's pretty cool.
And I assume that's where a lot of people have to live because obviously New York's so expensive. But it was like a 45-minute train ride up to Penn Station to go into the city. I only actually had class 2 days a week. And so my dad got me like an unlimited pass when I first moved up there. And pretty much every other day I was just wandering the city, seeing all the sights and everything. But yeah, I love Rutgers. Decided I'm going to stay here. My parents were like, no, you're not going to stay there because it's out-of-state tuition, all that kind of stuff. Came back, didn't want to stay at Birmingham Southern because they didn't have a true journalism program. I actually wanted to learn. Ended up transferring back to Alabama, so I graduated from Alabama a year and a half later. It ended up being about 6 years. My parents call it the decade of knowledge because I was in college for a long time, but a lot of it was because credits didn't transfer, going public to private, back to public again. Ended up being a pain in the ass. But so then I'd already interned, and then when I graduated, I got a job at a rival sports station because they wanted to hire a bunch of jocks flunkies. I guess I've been a flunky a lot of different places, but it took me 6 years to graduate, so it's true. But anyway, so I ended up, and now we're here.
My turn.
Sean?
I graduated from high school. I went to Vestavia for 2 years, and I wasn't a big fan of everything that was going on, and I pleaded to my parents to drop out. They wouldn't let me because I was going to be on MTV. They didn't have it. So I went to a school it was called Montclair, and they changed it to Arlington because they moved locations. But at the time, there was 5 people in my class. It was me, another guy, and 3 girls. And it was pretty much self-taught. It was pretty much like kind of a homeschool outside of home where you just came as you are. You wear whatever you need. There's no dress code. There's no prom. There's no sports. There's no social life. You'd go do your work, and you'd leave by like noon or 1 o'clock every day. Then I went to UAB, and you'd have to decide a major. So I decided I'm a musician. I'm going to do a music major. I got accepted. And the first class I had was Fundamentals of Music. And then we were on the quarter system too. This is when classes were like 3.5 hours. It was awful. So the first day of class, the professor gives out all these sheets, and it's sheet music. And she says, I just want to see where everybody's level is. And she goes, take this and write out the music that you see. I cannot read a lick of music. I've never been able to in my entire life. People are taking less than 2 minutes to fill these out, and they're turning. And I am sitting there. I'm the last one there, 45 minutes in, going, every cow eats grass. That's a G. And I'm doing that, and the girl goes, the professor comes up to me, she says, do you not know how to read music? I go, I don't know how to read a lick of music. And she says, well, I don't think this should be your class. I don't think music should be your major. It's like, you're right. So then I didn't change majors, and I stayed at UAB for about 1.5 years, and then I just stopped going, couldn't do it anymore. And I would walk around the track in Vestavia. That's the time where, in my mind, I thought if you walked 2 laps around the track, walked, and listen to your radio, that's got to be about 700 to 800 calories in my mind. So I'm losing weight, and I'm listening to WJOX. And then for some reason, I used to work at the Carmike movie theater, and I had finished that, and I needed a real job. And I don't know how, I had no connection, Citadel Broadcasting at the time. And I went to the website, and I just emailed somebody and just like, hey, I'm looking for an internship or anything you got. And Jennifer Dixon from the promotions department from Citadel at the time wrote me back, and she said, actually, we're leading somebody to be an audio tech. What do you know about audio? I'm a musician. I set up my own stuff. I know that stuff. And she said, well, could you come in Monday for an interview? I came in, and then I met Coach Wimp Sanderson and Sonny Smith, and looked around the building. And then she said that, actually, it's Monday. Can you start Thursday? We want you to audio tech. We do a show on the quad at Alabama and Tuscaloosa on Saturdays before game time. And on Fridays, Eli Gold does a show at the trunk, and we need somebody to tech that. I had never teched in my life. I was like, okay. So I did that. Was in the kitchen one day, and Jay Willoughby came in saying, hey, my dad's retiring from WAPI, John Ed Willoughby, and me and Richard Dixon are inheriting the show. We need a producer. Can you produce? Never produced in my life. Like, well, you have a sense of humor, and they're not letting us hire outside. We have to hire inside, so somebody has to do it. We start Monday. We need you to do it. I had never run a board in my life. And this is at the time when you're on the board and they throw it to break. We're on this little computer system where there's 4 boxes for commercials, 4 preloaded commercials, and you had to, the play button was this teeny tiny thing, and you had to go with a cursor, find that teeny tiny spot and hit play. For bumpers, you had to get a CD player. It was a weird CD player where you had a jewel case. You put the CD in jewel case, almost insert like an 8-track. To cue it, you had to fast forward, like, okay, this song really starts about 28 seconds in. You'd fast forward and cue it, and that would be our bumper music. So that was just thrown into the fire, complete total panic attack, because it was a 6 to 9 show in the morning. And suddenly I ran the show for about 4 or 5 months, but finally Richard asked me a question, and I said something on mic. I'd never talked on mic before. And I must have made them laugh, because they started saying, like, you need to talk more. I started talking more. Then we started doing bits. Like, I came up with comedy bits. I knew Lance. I would tech Lance's stuff on the side for jocks, because we were still connected. We were in the same cluster of stations. Jay and Richard got offered a job to Orlando, and they wanted me to come with them on a rock station, but they offered me this. We're going to pay you $20,000 a year, and we're going to give you $1,000 to move, and your shift is like 5 a.m. to 1 or 2 p.m. And I said, there's absolutely no way in hell I'm doing that. And they left. They got a pretty good paycheck. And so that's when Ryan Haney said, well, actually, I need you to produce the roundtable. And I started producing with just Lance. And I was Lance and Landrum at the time. It was only an hour show. And then it was, oh, God, I cannot remember. Then Ian came in. Ian was there for 2 years. That's when you were there, when Lunceford was there with us. So that's how my whole spiel. Moral of the story, I dropped out of college thinking I would be on MTV. I'm walking around the track thinking I was burning 800 calories, and I lied my way to get a technician job when I had no idea about audio.
See, when I first applied at the time Cox Media Group at Summit now, I applied to be a promotions person because I had worked, and I was like, I guess I just need a job. I'll be a promotions person. And they're like, hey, actually, we're starting a competitor to Jocks. I see you intern there. Come be here and take them to the ground, which has been tried multiple times and never really happened in the radio side of things. And So they're hiring me, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll work in sports. And
Yeah.
then it ended up going horribly sideways. But like, did you first just apply to be a cameraman?
So out of college, I actually went to interview at WPMI station down in Mobile as a just kind of like a production hand. And they had seen on my resume that I had, I'd shot, basketball, gymnastics, stuff at Auburn. So they had a news photographer position open. And so, why don't you try this instead? And basically hired me on the spot. And so from there, I did the news thing there for about a year and a half, and then got offered a job back home here in Birmingham at ABC 3340. Did that for the next 11 years, and then transitioned into sports.
That's what, so you never even considered having anything to do with cameras as a career?
No, not up until that.
I never thought I'd be in radio my entire life. I thought I was going to be a musician or something
I thought I was
else.
going to be a writer.
Yeah,
and
it's just
all that
amazing
fell
how
apart,
where you land, and it's just like it's good. No complaints, but it's just like at 21, I would not imagine you're going to be in radio. No, I'm not going to be in radio. Yeah, you are, and you're going to be there for like 20 years.
Did you listen to the radio a lot before?
I did. I listened to Feinbaum when he was on 960. What was that?
690.
No, 960. When he was
on
Neil Vickers. I would listen to that, and I would listen to Herb and Ray walking around that track, and then I got a Sirius Stiletto, which was when Sirius had this huge deal. I loved listening to Howard Stern back in the day, and he said that we got this new Stiletto. It's the newest thing. You can take you on the road. You buy this little digital screen, and it comes with its own headphones that are uncomfortable as hell, that had an antenna on the band on your head. And it was just, it was really sleek, the actual piece of equipment. And so I could walk on the track and just through a Wi-Fi signal, through your phone signal, you could listen to Sirius satellite radio. And that's when I really got into talk. And I was like, I would love to be, my dream job would be the Artie Lang chair on Howard Stern, where Paul McCartney comes in. He may get one question, but he knows when to talk. He knows, like, it's not, every segment's not about him. He would shut up and just listen, and then I could throw a joke in here. And the same thing with Opie and Anthony. I would listen to them, and I love Jim Norton's, but Jim Norton talked more. He was more of a contributor to the show. So I was like, that's something I'd like to do. I can't drive a show. I don't like driving a show. I wouldn't want to drive a show. That's too stressful for me to keep things moving along, to change the subject, to know when something has died, throw it to a live read. I never wanted to do that. So I always like to be the reactor. I don't want to be the guy that's driving.
See, I always wanted to be Robin. And like
That's a good role too.
Like I saw her do stand up in Vegas.
Robin Quivers?
Yeah.
Wow.
In Vegas. This was 2011, I think. And it was at Brad Garrett's club. Yeah. And I just remember thinking, like, she's funny. She's like the second. I don't really listen to her, but she's like the secondary person who, like,
she's number 2 in that show.
Can jump in, but isn't like when he's interviewing somebody. She's not like, I gotta carry anything. Right. I gotta drive anything. I hate driving things. Even though y'all make me drive this. I'm with you. No, I couldn't be driving it.
No. Some people do. It's a skill. Again, It is a super skill that somebody can drive a show. It takes a lot of a personality to do it, and that is something I do not have. I do not want. But I am fine sitting in a reactionary chair. But I've enjoyed what I've done. Never thought I would be here. Still do music on the side. Yeah, so that's my journey for. I took 1 or 2 courses at Jeff State, and I dropped those 2. And I was like, I just can't. My problem is, I tell people I love to learn. I don't like to be taught.
I can respect that.
Yeah. So because I don't like to be tested. I don't like to be in a room. Scott, what do you think the purpose of Moby Dick was? What do you think Herman Melville was saying? I don't like that. I don't like to be isolated and picked out. I'll read the book on my own and interpret it my own way. That's the stuff I don't like, being in a big class. And because I know, like, I learn differently than you two do and y'all do to me. And so I was like, school is not for me.
Hey, CJ Stroud's not a test taker either, but
exactly.
It seems to have worked out well for him.
Speaking of which, the ACT, we need to wrap. ACT I took for the first time, and I had a huge panic attack on the beginning part of it. And I told her to raise my hand. I told the teacher, when I used to have panic attacks, I had to excrete really bad and get rid of something. And my stomach dropped, and I raised my hand. I was like, hey, I'm on the first portion of the test. I've got to go to the bathroom, and it's going to be a minute. And she's like, well, if you leave, you can't come back. And so I just put C for everything, and I went to the bathroom and left. What do you think I got? What do you think I got? Oh, I had to take it again. I got a 13.
Oh.
So, but that's just on the first portion of the test, and it's doing all C's until that, because I had to leave. But I was like, I thought I was going to get like a 2, but I got a 13. It's not bad.
Yeah.
And then I took it again, and I'm not going to take my score, but it was acceptable at some universities. But
on the next episode of The Back Room, our ACT scores, and we tell you how smart we were in school. No.
I completely destroyed their bathroom.
Our best bathroom stories. I guess
I got a lot of those.
We can tell. I got a few of those too. Our best times at the toilet. No, yeah, we've gone a little long, but there's a little insight, I guess, into us, how we got to this point, and yeah, and Jim will be back, and I know we're all happy to have him back from vacation, and yeah. See, I don't like driving this thing. I don't really know how to end it. So, give one more Lance impression.
No, I was just saying that I think that if it would be cool, well, actually.
One more Brown impression.
Y'all still going?
We don't need them! God bless you, and God bless America.